even though this comes out at this time every year, it seemed like the perfect ray of sunshine for this year. I am doing it. I am going to attempt the Our Fantasy Bingo board for 2026. I've seen the bingo boards up on the subreddit before and always been a little bit too intimidated to really try it. But I decided I'm going to do it. And I decided this before fully even looking at the bingo board, like I was thinking about it a month ago. Because this year in books, I have not been picking great for myself. Though Magical Readathon's going good, so maybe another one with more prompts. We are definitely not going for hard mode in our first year here, though some of them, happy coincidence, do fit the prompt for hard mode too. I also will have a few suggestions. I didn't feel qualified enough to actually make recommendations for some of the prompts besides what I'm reading, as I'm new. This is my first year doing it. Does that make sense? No, not entirely, but that's what my brain said, so that's what we're going with. Also, I'm working if this happened to be the first time you clicked here. I hope you enjoy it and you'll find a new book that you want to pick up. Many of the ones I'm going to mention are the ones that are on my 2026 list that I want to prioritize this year, ones that I actually own, series that I want to complete, and I did somehow manage to stay within the only use an author once thing. I actually thought that would be a little hard, but I think I did a pretty good job. Let me know also down below if you guys are veterans and you don't think any of these books, or even if it's your first time and you don't think any of the books fit the prompt. I would take recommendations. The first space on the board would be a trans or non-binary protagonist. I don't believe it has to be the main character based off several other people's picks that I've seen. However, it cannot be an alien or a robot, which completely ruined the book I was going to pick for this. So I went to the discussion boards to see the recommendations, and I ended up picking The Raven Tower by, I forgot the author's name and I did not put it in my notes. I'm very sorry, but you should be able to see the book now. And I don't know very much about this one. It says, centuries, the kingdom of Idrian has been protected by the god known as the Raven. He watches over his territory from atop a tower in the powerful port of Vasti. His will is enacted through the Raven's lease, a human ruler chosen by the god himself. His magic is sustained via the blood sacrifice that every lease must offer, and under the Raven's watch the city flourishes. We have some gods, some politicalness, and aspects. It also may work for hard mode, as it might not take place in modern times. Our second prompt then is to judge a book by its title, and this is one that I wasn't sure that I would actually be able to tell you about. Because, well, one, there's also the covers. I'm like, okay. It's a cover and title thing, which one I notice first sometimes. And it wasn't in hard mode to say, I thought it was that I couldn't know much about it either. However, I generally do read the blurbs a lot. So I was like, that negates all of this. And then I put a hard mode on myself because there were some really cool titles that I was like, yeah, but it wasn't really judging it by the title because I knew that author. And I was like, I'll probably like it because of the author. So that's not judging it by its title. But there is one that's not out yet. It comes out in June. And it is called Nobody's Quest by Alyssa Day. And I have kind of read the description. Yes, I won't tell you the description, so maybe it'll work for you. But I clicked on it to read the description because I've never heard of the author. This one fit the bill. Otherwise, I was just going to have to go wander through a bookstore one day, and that's a 50-50 chance that I'll find something new. Then it is to read a translated book from a language that you don't read or speak. This could be literally pretty much anything for me. But I wanted to get one that I have been meaning to do, and I'm going to say it counts because I'm not doing just the one manga. I'm going to do the whole series in 1 month, so like a book a day, and so that should still count. Because my son read all of them, and I wanted to start them, but I still haven't yet. So I'm reading Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. Yep, I know I said that wrong. By, I can't pronounce the author's name. I'm sorry, I really am. And I'm going to go move a cat real quick. Next up is to read a small press or self-published, indie-published book, but it can't be by one of like the big publishers, possibly maybe even the big indie publishers. There are the big indie publishers. And it can be getting trad published, but it has to be read by you before it is trad published. And for this one, there's one that has been on my list for over a year, and we're finally going to do it. This would be The God Eater Saga by Rob J. Hayes. Probably, I don't want to say probably, you're supposed to start with Harold, which is the main novel. But he wrote the first of all the trilogies, right? Yeah, it's a trilogy of trilogies. Harold is the main timeline. It is the big book. And then it's the first book. And then there's another one that's 1,000 years before Harold. Same world, 1,000 years before. It's a novella. So shorter. And then there is, I don't remember the names even, but there's another one that's 3,000 years before that. And so he wrote all of the first of these trilogies concurrently. And then he's writing all of the second ones of the trilogies right now. And it sounds such a cool and interesting premise, and I really want to try it. He has a recommended reading order. For Harold, though, it says, 1,000 years ago, humanity's greatest heroes killed God. Across the land of Helsia, the iron grasp of the godless kings is failing. Demons stalk the deep forest, monsters break free of their prisons beneath the world vein, and terrors of the old world rise again. Final one on the first row is unusual transportation. This story includes a surprising method of moving from place to place. And by unusual, we mean that it is outside the ordinary in real life and uncommon to the book's broader genre. This one I'm being kind of cheeky because I'm using the one that inside the prompt they gave an example of. One, because it didn't involve having to think of something, and two, because what are autoducks? What are autoducks? And that's The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon, which I have kind of wanted to start this series anyway, especially because The Something of Twyla and Frank is following an older character, and that one just sounded even more intriguing, which is a thing for this bingo board, but not using the same author means I still can't do that. Also, because I haven't read the first book, though they're not directly connected like that, they're just in the same overall world. So this one, you are following two characters. One, Hart is a marshal, and Mercy is an undertaker, right? She's an undertaker, he's a marshal, and they don't exactly get along, and they have to work together. And I've just heard really good things about it, so I hope that this will go well. Starting off the second row is going to be the afterlife, where you are dealing with the realms of the dead. This could be like traveling to it, talking to death and something. For this, though, it is the perfect time to finish a duology, which would be The God and the Guaishin by Sophie Kim, the second book after The God and the Gumiho, where you are following a trickster god and a Gumiho, which is a fox shifter demon kind of. She is a element of justice, though, as she only eats, well, her specificness, she only eats men who have done bad things. And it gives her a lot of power. And at one point in time, though, she did do, she kind of went on a rampage, and that's why she is known as the Scarlet Fox. And their interactions in the first book were just adorable. And in the second book, because of reasons, they are on an afterlife cruise, or that's where he finds her. Like I said, reasons. Game Changer is a story that features a game or a competition. And for this one, I'm going with one that probably so many people are, is one of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books. I will be reading either This Inevitable Ruin, well, I will be reading that one, or even A Parade of Horribles would count for this. Would he be breaking rules in that particular one? I don't know, maybe. He does almost every book. A recommendation for this one, though, would be Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong, the first in the series. What is it called that I don't remember? The series, the trilogy, will be finishing up this year, though, so I need to get to the next ones. In this one, though, there is a competition that takes place across the city where people can literally hop from body to body. So that's really cool. The next two are complicated. First up is vacation. Read a book set somewhere that you would like to vacation, and I honestly have no idea. I don't know, maybe we just never find a book for that, or if we randomly have one come up, then we do. That's fine. Then you're supposed to have one that is reading 5 short stories. I am not the biggest fan of short stories, especially if they're not set in a particular universe or world. So I'm going to use the one replacement option you get to take a prompt from last year's bingo board and fill it in here. For that one, I am picking Gods and Pantheons, where there is a god in the story, or the gods. And we're going to finish the Bloodsworn Saga trilogy. I think it's still called a saga, with Fury of the Gods, because you do have god characters and god children's, by John Gwynne. Eventually, yes, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to finish this year. It's in my goals, and we're going to do it. This one I am taking on faith a little bit. It is older protagonist. You read a story with the main character older than 50. And I was not entirely sure. I have heard that another book that's coming out next month could also work for that. And I thought about it in one of the other books, but I have placed that one somewhere else. So, but otherwise it would have worked as well. But on the subreddit, it said Shards of Earth would work by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And this is another trilogy that's supposed to be on my list to get to. This one is sci-fi where something has been happening with aliens and we thought they were gone, but now maybe they're not gone and things. And I'm so excited to get to this one because I love his sci-fis. So I really, really want to start this series. One more that'll fit into the older protagonist, if you haven't read it yet, it's very short, and that's The Keepers 6 by Kate Elliott. And the main character is a mom to an adult son. So she's at least over 50. I'm pretty sure it actually says her name. It's somewhere in it. Do I remember what it is now? No, but I'm pretty sure this one would also work for that if you are interested. Starting off our third row is Duology Part 1. Read the first in a duology. And that's a great time to read another book that has been sitting on my shelf. That's Infinity Gate by M.R. Carey. In this one, there are parallel dimensions examined because all it is Earth, but just different dimensions of Earth. And then they all talk to each other and communicate until something goes wrong and one of them is holding all the other ones hostage. At least that is what I remember of the description. So let's find out. It is a chunker. Then we have our fantasy book club or read-along book. And it is to participate or read any past or active book club pick or read-along. So from this year or last year's, any of them. For this then, I'm going to try to get to The Poet Empress by, I forgot to put the author's name again. This is also a more recent release and it just sounds very dark and intriguing, and I like the way it works, as she's going to learn how to work the magic system of that poetry is without being able to read, and also having to be the concubine to the emperor, who is quite cruel, or one of the princes in this very cruel household. Then the very middle square that I'm already going to have marked out, because it's published in 2026, so it's just a title that has been published this year. And I started it on April 1st, so it counts. And I wanted to count this one. This way I can already have a win and I can go in like any direction on the board to get a bingo pretty much. And that would be The Book Witch by Meg Schaefer. And this one is so cute because it is following a woman who, what book witches do, they hop into stories and they fix the stories from going awry. And a little bit of a mystery element as to why something was stolen from her. Where is her grandfather? He's been missing for a while. A fictional detective is pulled out of his book to help her solve the case. Then we have Explorers and Rangers, which is a story that features either an explorer, someone who goes out and it travels and investigates an unfamiliar region, or a ranger, so wilderness and forest oriented sorts of things. For this one, I'm going to be using one that I'm pretty sure works, and that would be The Surviving Sky by Kritika H. Rao. And because the main character, well, one of the main characters is an archaeologist, and her husband is an architect, and they live in floating cities, but somehow they end up on the ground. Because something, mystery, investigation, a thing. So they're exploring this region, and she's an archaeologist. That is her job. I want to recommend for this one, though, Ninth Reign by Jen Williams as one of your main characters, who almost fits the older protagonist thing, maybe, but I don't think that she's over 50. So I don't think it works for that one. But she is what does she always describe herself as? Oh, an eccentric explorer, Lady Vincenza Vintage de Grazon. And she's kind of what brings all the characters together. So if you haven't tried this series, I would recommend. The last square on this row is Duology Part 2. And you can complete the duology that you started in Part 1. This is the only square where they allow you to have the same author. But hard mode is to do a different one. And also I have duologies in progress that I really should. I have two options. One that I meant to finish last year too would be the sequel to One Dark Window to Twisted Crowns. But when I did start that one, I realized that I might need to read this one again to remember what happened. That could also be said for my second option, but I do actually own the second book, whereas I don't for this. Cage of Dreams by Rebecca Schaefer is the sequel to City of Nightmares, which is really cool that when you dream, your nightmares can become things in the real world and attack people or be fluffy. Cute things. Okay, so it's not always nightmares, just anything you dream kind of, or you turn into your nightmare. That's what it was. You turn into your nightmare, right? Yes, that's what it was. And you're following a coward as your main character. So that was a very different, interesting perspective. And I would like to finish it. I really would. Starting the next row is one word title, and that is obviously a book with a singular worded title. I realized I have one that would go for this. It's on my shelf, so maybe that one for you. But I want to get to this one as well, and that would be Salt Crop by Yumi Kitase. And I can get it from my library. Sadly, not on audiobook though. But in this one, you are following two sisters as in a distant future where most of the world is covered by the ocean, as they set off to find their missing third sister. They're all kind of estranged and stuff, but I like the things that she looks at in her books, so I want to go with that one. Okay, actually I own two that could also work for this, and that is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, the first book in his Area X series, and Wool by Hugh Howey. Options. We'll see though. Technically, Salt Crop has been on my TBR longer than both of these. Next up is a non-human protagonist, and that's a story that features a character, the main character, who is not human. I think this fits. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. I need to fit this somewhere, and I think it works for this because he's not a human, technically. He's not, right? I hope so. I really hope so, because this is a high fantasy and adventure story. It is things, and I want to get to this one so badly. I guess it could also fit for the final one on the first one on the final one, but I have another one there that'll actually be coming in from the library. Our next prompt is a middle grade, so it's to read a middle grade. I don't read very many middle grades anymore, like at all really. So I went to the boards again to get pretty good suggestions for this one. I had two that I debated on. There is, of course, A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, which I always kind of wanted to read by T. Kingfisher. That would also work as a good holiday one. Some people debate whether it's middle grade or YA. I think the protagonist is 12, so we have that option. And then there's also Howl's Moving Castle by Mary. Oh my God, I can't remember this, and I don't know why. And I was like, oh yeah, that's so cute. I can't believe I never read that one. So that's one I actually put for the prompt. And hopefully we get to it. Next up is First Contact. As it sounds, it's a meeting another being for the first time, whether that is aliens or fairies, elves, however you want to look at that one. The hard mode is non-violent, which would be really hard for some of them. But I could offer you this suggestion if you have not read it yet. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir totally fits the bill. Another First Contact that, it went away. It wasn't exceedingly violent. Yeah. Children of Time series by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Literally any of them. No, kind of. It depends. They're always in split timelines, so you could say that there's First Contact in all of them because they're on different time waves. The one I'm going for, though, that actually, from what I've heard, would fit in hard mode because it is a very peaceful meeting and interaction, possibly, and that's going to be The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. I don't fully know that much about it. I know that we make contact with another planet, and I think also we have people who go to said other planet as first ambassadors or whatever, and possibly we're also following a specific family or a research group or something. Then we have a murder mystery where the main plot of the story is focused on solving a murder. And for this one, might I recommend Robert Jackson Bennett's The Tainted Cup, or the second book, or the third one, which is what I'll be reading, is A Trade of Blood. I can't wait to get to that one. So this one totally works. There was another one that I thought of and have now forgotten. Starting off our final row would be the aptly titled Cat Squasher, which is so funny. And it is just a book over 500 pages. Though the hard mode really, really would do that, and that is 900 pages. For this one, this is probably the best one to fit it because look how big. That's going to be The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgkinson. This could also work for a few other prompts. It's got the political intrigue, and I don't remember the other one that I had it in. but I will finally get it. Oh, murder mystery. This would also work for murder mystery and the hard mode of it, because she is not an actual detective, but she has to try to solve the thing. And a competition. Actually, it also works for a competition. So this book would really work on lots of the bingo prompts. But she is unwittingly put up to be the next candidate for the Senate kind of the city, I think, where each of the gods are kind of like animals, and she would be under the Raven pantheon, whatever. Then we have Feast Your Eyes on This, and it is a story that involves food, like it heavily involves food. For this one, I'm going to go with Automatic Noodle, because I've been wanting to read this since it came out. It sounds adorable. I realized I didn't actually say anything about Automatic Noodle. This short story takes place in San Francisco that's rebuilding from the chaos of war. A group of food service bots in an abandoned ghost kitchen take over their own delivery app account. They rebrand as a neighborhood lunch spot and start producing some of the tastiest hand-pulled noodles in the city. But there's just one problem. Someone or something is review bombing the restaurant's feedback page with fake bad service reports. Another one that you could try, though, is A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic by Jay Penner. This one also would work for the competition setting because she's going to a baking competition. Then we have a book published in the 1970s, and for this one, I went with The Princess Bride by William somebody. I am very bad at authors' names today. I am so sorry. This one is, of course, a classic, but I've never read it either. Seen the movie, love the movie. Definitely a very important part of my childhood would be that movie. And I was so happy when my daughter actually liked it too. So I'm going to read the book that is based around and hopefully have a just wonderful, adorable time doing that as well. Then we have Politics and Court Intrigue, where there is several ones that could fit into this one. I think The Raven Scholar might fit for this one. There is one that might be the one I go with. Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales? Is that the third one? Or definitely the third one, not so much the first one. The first one works for the Explorer prompt though. Or I could finish a trilogy that I already have and need to go, and it'll also start with the first book. Could also work for this prompt, and that would be Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford. This is the Age of Uprising trilogy. The last book is Engines of Chaos. No, that's the second book. Engines of War is the last book. This is one that also could have the older protagonist, as you are following the three Harkspur children and their mother. But it never states their mother's age or the children's age, I don't think. Possibly it'll state one of them, but I couldn't remember. So it's hard to determine her age based off of that. This has been a very enjoyable steampunkish fantasy that I don't know why I haven't finished yet. So now I need to finish it this year. Gonna do it. It's gonna happen. The final one on the board is An Author of Color, which is self-explanatory. For this one is another book that I've been wanting to have on my TBR since it came out, and the sequel's already out, of an unknown number of books planned. This is going to be Sons of Darkness by Guy Grenville, and it also works for hard mode if you're wondering, because he lives in India, and it is based around Hindu mythology characteristics and lore and myths. And it also might work for politics, though my memory is a bit fuzzy on the overall story plot of it. But it has sounded dark fantasy and very cool since I first read its description a few years ago now. That's the plan for this year's bingo board. We'll see which ones I actually get read. Right now, I'm thinking the first several are going to be scattered kind of everywhere across the board. So I don't know. We will figure it out. What is the plan moving forward? Thankfully, we have a whole year. I didn't mention that at the beginning, but it goes from April 1st to March 31st of 2027. So within this span, I should be able to read at least 5 books in a row of any sort of fashion. Are you participating? What is yours looking like if you are? Or do you have any suggestions that maybe I picked a wrong book? Please let me know if I picked one that does not fit the prompt, or one that would fit better if it's a stretch. If you like this and you don't know what to say in the comments, or you have nothing to say about the bingo board, you could leave a scroll or a pin emoji for making lists. Is there a list making emoji? And check out some of my other videos. Every Monday we do the weekly new book releases to talk about books coming out that week. So I really hope that you will subscribe to stick around for all these future videos and to come back and keep me accountable that I want to check in that we are accomplishing our bingo board. I hope you're finding something great to read today, and that I will see you in the next one.